Good morning, everyone. Honorable Excellencies, Ministers of Algeria, Morocco, Bahrain, Egypt, Sudan, United Arab Emirates, Deputy Ministers, government delegations, Secretary of IGU, President of IGU, Secretary of International Energy Forum, Professor Plumta, industry representatives, and good morning to everyone, and really welcome to Barcelona. I think that this forum is the good place and the right way to move and offer governments and our industry the opportunity of discussing about technology, innovation, and how gas contribution may be forming part of inclusive growth and a sustainable future. We must talk and address the roles of gas, and this is one of the proposals of today. And this role we can evolve where gas should continue to play as a future energy road. And we think that gas will not and should not be forming part in the agenda as a transition energy. We do think that gas is a long-standing source for the energy and for the world.
I will be welcoming all of you to the 6th IEF-IGU Ministerial Forum. I wish to thank Dr. Song for your continuing traditional excellent collaboration between IGU and the IEF.
For the role of gas in the global energy mix is increasingly important. Recognize this trend. The International Energy Forum Charter mandates close collaboration with International Gas Union, and they establish a biannual Ministerial Gas Forum for ministers and leaders from the gas industry. Its aim is to facilitate a constructive conversation among the governments and the companies from the both producers and the consumer countries. Over time, the broadening of the producer-consumer dialogue to natural gas has made a significant progress in a rapidly changing environment. Gas sector cooperation stands at the center of a good interface between maintaining global energy security, implementing national determined contribution to avoid the catastrophic climate change, and accelerate sustainable and inclusive growth and development.
Growth in natural gas consumption in industry is likely to be very large, particularly in petrochemicals.
I think gas have been the cleanest form of fossil fuel, and gas and efficiency in gas turbines have made gas very attractive nowadays for many countries as part of their base load energy sources. For us in the United Arab Emirates, gas is currently number one, so we are almost relying on gas. But by 2050, gas is going to be, after renewable, gas is the second. So renewable is going to be number one with 44% contribution, and gas is going to be just next to it with 38 to 40%. So gas, I think, with the current technologies and efficiencies, is picking up to become very attractive, competing with the cleanest form of energy, which is renewable.
The plan now to be a regional gas hub, and the regional gas hub will not mean that we are talking alone. We are talking about a cluster of countries, and many countries together will cooperate to have this regional East Mediterranean gas hub. We will complement each other upstream together with downstream in order to make sure that we are together cooperating to allowing cargoes of LNG to the European market. Hence, Europe and the European Union can depend on a reliable source of alternative suppliers like the Eastern Mediterranean countries.
Our plans right now are actually about saying we need to get some kind of security around access to the gas. We do not have as yet proven indigenous sources. We probably have quite a relatively large amount of shale gas. We're just still in the process of actually just checking and trying to quantify how much that is. So that would be the first price. That's what we'd want. But what we do know for sure is that within the region, we've got countries like Tanzania, Angola, Mozambique with huge gas reserves. And in the meeting of the energy ministers in July in South Africa, this was discussed, and it was agreed that what we need to do is to streamline our regulations, streamline our policies, so that we can use gas to industrialize the region, but to also provide energy access.
Can South Africa play a role in helping to improve energy access in Sub-Saharan Africa?
I mean, if you compare our region, the continent, to other places, they are looking at access to clean, modern forms of energy of about 70%. We are looking at an average of about 35%, so you're absolutely correct. And we do think we can play a role. We think gas is much more flexible.
As for Bahrain, gas represents the dominant supply of energy for Bahrain. We rely on gas for power generation, water desalination, and for industry. We have added one additional source of supply, which is LNG. We have built a terminal which is due to be commissioned early 2019. This will represent like the insurance policy for Bahrain in case anything happens to our Bahrain fields. We have additional source of supply. And on top of that, as you are aware, we have made recently a discovery in Khalid al-Bahrain. And this is a promising discovery that we are attempting to exploit in the future, which will provide us with additional supplies of oil and gas.
Well, I think gas today is playing an essential and growing part of the global energy mix. And the U.S. transformation of its energy picture over the last 10 to 12 years has just been phenomenal. Natural gas, as produced through shale gas, has really provided the U.S. economy both an economical, a plentiful, and a clean source of energy to complement the other growing sources of energy, which are renewables. And as a consequence, we're seeing the replacement of coal by natural gas in power generation. We're seeing natural gas complement renewables. We're seeing very cost-effective gas costing because of the improvements in technology. The future is bright for gas in North America, and I think by extension, these innovations and technologies can be transferred around the world to provide similar benefits to other economies.
So we're here now with Mr. Khalid Bin Nasser, who is former Minister of Energy of Tunisia, former director at the IEA, former chief economist at the Emirati at ADNOC in the United Arab Emirates. So he has vast experience. Before that, he was at Schlumberger. So he is familiar with the whole spectrum of the energy complex. So we're talking here about gas and the role of gas now, in the future, and how to make gas an integral part of the energy transition.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation. Actually, gas in all major scenarios is going to grow in terms of demand, which is a very good news because gas has intrinsic good properties in terms of efficiency, but also in terms of carbon footprint. So this is the context, and we are also seeing a very big diversification in terms of the countries that are importing the gas, as well as the countries that are producing the gas. So it's overall a very good story. There has been actually a revolution, several revolutions. The first one is where the gas comes from, and the unconventional has been quite a big differentiator. And we have much more resources than what was deemed available only 20 years ago. The second one is LNG has made another revolution, and especially within the LNG, the possibility for countries to use what's called FSRUs, which is the available.
And what is the government doing to try to improve the situation?
After the partial lifting of the American sanction, I think that we have an opportunity to bring the financial and the technology for this important product. Now we are connecting the network of electricity.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah.
so that it is very easy also to make a pipeline for this gas from Egypt to Sudan if we need it for that. Now we have a project, very big project, to insert this gas in electricity generation. Now we are going on.
Because we depend a lot on hydro, but that is also a risk.
Yeah.
If you have climate change,
Definitely,
which becomes
definitely,
quite a big risk.
definitely.
So gas has a very
Definitely,
big
and you know that Sudan is a very big country. Coming to Sudan and initiating us to how to deal with this for exploring, for financing, for producing this energy. I think that our future of this products I think very high, successful.
Where do you see Lebanon's role in this sort of East Mediterranean gas hub?
We will start our exploration in offshore. They are supposed to start next year, and we hope within 5 years we will start the production. Good news, you are the first one to know it. The Egyptian minister told me that Egypt is able now to supply us with the Egyptian LNG. We just called our minister to tell him the good news.
We are here with Mr. Massimo Mantovani from Italian ENI. You are Chief Gas and LNG Marketing and Power Officer. You spoke at this conference where we're talking about the role of gas in the energy mix now, in the future, the role of technology, and you mentioned in your presentation the difficulty of getting investment at the moment, particularly in LNG, which is where we're going to see the biggest growth.
Yes, I mean, we saw that in the last 2 years on the market. You know, very few final investment decisions, and it's true that the barrel was down, but what was the issue? The issue is that the market was changing. I mean, the risk on taking long-term supply agreements is something which the buyers were not ready to. So if you don't have as a supplier, as a producer, actually a long-term agreement which is oil indexed at a certain price, it's difficult to take a final investment decision. The market changed. The market was looking for short-term contract, flexible contract in deliveries and price. And who was going to take that risk then? Then the issue comes that now the barrel is high and is speeding up, and so what is changing is changing the role of integrated companies like ENI. They are creating portfolio always bigger. They are ready to take off-take risk, oil index, and to provide on the other hand to buyers the flexibility they need. But you know, the buyer market has to be careful because you can have a liquid market, you can have a lot of gas, it will never be for the next decade so liquid that you are sure to find it, notwithstanding the price. So you have to be ready to pay for security of supply.
Do you agree that the fact that there hasn't been enough investment, that we could see a supply crunch in the years ahead, and that would obviously have an impact on price, so on demand? And if we're talking about gas as a transition fuel, as an important fuel in the transition to a cleaner energy complex, to a sort of a decarbonized economy, is it something that is worrying?
Last winter, you know, something strange happened. Suddenly the Chinese demand boomed, the Blue Sky project, and then whatever it was, but the price was incredibly high, much higher than the forward of this year for the same period. So that was an issue where there was not enough liquid market to provide LNG, and the price went up. Whether this happens for the next 3-4 years, I'm not so sure it will be at that level. And you know, final investment decision, 50 million is coming from US next year. In the next 2 years, we will have final investment decision for a significant amount. Mozambique, 30 million. And if we think Qatar, which is going to go 3 or 4 trains, just to mention some, even Nigeria with the 7th train, it's true that will be after 2024, but still I don't think that we are really at the very situation where the market is too tight. Gas has to replace coal as quickly as possible, also for all the actually regulation which is in place. But there is also one thing to be clear, is that gas LNG is the perfect partner for renewable.
We appreciate the cooperation with IGU and IEF in everything that we do, and there are so many takeaways from this meeting. There is a problem with investments in fossil fuels because I think most of the world thinks we're not going to need fossil fuels, and we are. And I think
gas is cleaner, isn't it?
Gas is cleaner, but I think people forget the scale of the numbers and the scary numbers we have to deal with, and the fact that world population is increasing at such a rate. We will need lots of gas, but we'll need lots of everything. So as was shown today, that the major population centres in the future are going to be China and India. They're both sitting on vast resources of coal. So there will be parts of the world where gas will replace coal, but I think it's unrealistic to think that in India and China they're not going to use their coal resources. They'll have to because of the populations they will have. So our challenge, I think, is to make sure that there's enough technology transfer and enough cooperation to make sure that any coal use is done in a clean manner. We have to do an awful lot to make sure we reduce our venting and flaring of methane, because it is such a valuable material that we are just wasting.
What does this conference achieve and what role does the IEF play as well in helping this transition?
Okay, so thank you very much for this question. And this time we have a very successful meeting together with the IGU, and also we have the 8 ministers and the 23 countries, 130 the members, about 30 companies. After these discussions, we can see that the people more and more the support and the ideas, the gas, because it's a feature of the abundance of the reserves, and also the affordability, accessibility, and the transportation easier. So for this, make this the gas more useful, especially after the Paris Agreement, and for many of countries, for the economic development, for the climate change, and also for the energy transition. So this gas will play an important role.
What are your main takeaways from this?
I think we all agree that there is a need to move into a much more cleaner energy sector, and that gas is going to play an important role in that evolution. We're going to have a bright future, that gas is going to be part of the energy mix, not only in power generation as a backup energy for the renewables, but also in plenty of other applications, like in industry, in petrochemicals, in transportation for trucks and heavy-duty vehicles, but also in the cities to improve the air quality of the cities. So gas is going to be there and is going to play an important role. And the other major conclusion is that there is a need for continuing to invest in technology solutions. We saw today that there are certain developments like clean gas, like hydrogen, that may also change the picture going forward, and that there is a need for much more collaboration between the governments and the companies in order to make all the investments that are needed to secure the supply of energy going forward.